Queen consort Camilla and her daughter Laura Lopes have crossed a line that no royal should ever touch, exploiting Princess Diana's legacy and mocking the honor of Princess Anne. The words spread through the corridors of Sandringham like wildfire. What began as a glittering royal after-party on a crisp autumn evening in 2024 had erupted into one of the sharpest scandals to shake the monarchy in decades. Laura Lopes, daughter of Queen Camilla, had raised a glass, laughing with companions, when she delivered a line that would ignite fury across generations. "Aunt Anne, honestly, you look like a relic," she sneered, her eyes sparkling with a mocking glee. "That outfit, those pearls, the whole stiff royal act, you're nothing more than a puppet, and everyone knows you're only a shadow behind your mother." Her words dripped with derision, targeting both Anne's age and her famously modest attire. To Laura, Anne's authority was meaningless, and she relished the disruption. In the same breath, she gestured to her mother, Camilla, seated quietly nearby, as if to imply Anne's power was secondary. "Let's be honest," Laura continued. "What can she teach me? Her influence is all behind the scenes. She's not even running the show." The audacity stunned the assembled guests. Even the crystal chandeliers overhead seemed to quiver as tension thickened the air. Princess Anne, now 74, known for her unyielding poise and decades-long devotion to the crown, remained calm at first, a measured observer of the insolence before her. But the insult cut deeper than any casual slight. Laura's flippancy wasn't just disrespectful, it was an affront to the monarchy itself, to the traditions Anne had safeguarded, and to the memory of Diana, whose legacy had been invoked carelessly. With measured precision, Anne's gaze swept over Laura and then Camilla. "You think decorum is optional?" she asked quietly, her voice sharp enough to slice through the polite murmurs of the room. A hush fell over the guests. Anne's calm was not weakness. It was the prelude to authority about to be exercised. She raised a hand and pointed subtly to the floral brooch pinned on Laura's jacket, a piece everyone recognized instantly. It was no ordinary accessory. The sapphire teardrop floral pin was part of Princess Diana's personal collection, lent to Laura under Camilla's authorization, bypassing the Royal Jewelry Advisory Board. The implication was clear. Laura had flaunted it without understanding its sanctity. A ripple of shock passed through the room. Even Camilla's composure faltered. The mother's soft smile vanished, replaced by a flash of panic. Anne's next words were deliberate, carrying the weight of decades of experience and the authority of her station. "This isn't fashion," she said, "and it isn't your inheritance to display as you please. These symbols carry history, respect, and responsibility, not vanity or rebellion." The party froze. Laura's confidence faltered, replaced by sudden awareness of the misstep. Her smirk vanished. I didn't think," she began, but Anne's piercing gaze stopped her mid-sentence. Anne continued, her voice steady but commanding. "You may have grown up under influence, but influence does not grant you immunity. The memory of Diana, the sanctity of this family, and the traditions we uphold are not tools for amusement or self-promotion." Guests exchanged nervous glances. This was more than a private reprimand. It was a public lesson on respect, legacy, and the boundaries that even the offspring of royalty could not cross. Camilla, pale and shaking, attempted to interject, her voice betraying both fear and frustration. "Anne, please, it was not meant." Anne cut her off, a subtle flicker of steel in her eyes. "Intentions do not erase consequences. Your daughter's arrogance has endangered the trust and dignity of this house. This stops here." As the words sank in, the evening's atmosphere transformed. Laughter and chatter had vanished. Social hierarchies reasserted themselves with silent force. Even the most composed guests understood that Princess Anne had re-established her authority with precision. Laura lowered her gaze, cheeks flushed, realizing that neither her mother's protection nor her social charm could shield her from the consequences. Anne's calm, yet unyielding presence had exposed the imbalance. Disrespect could not go unpunished, especially when it mocked heritage and legacy. In the days that followed, the repercussions rippled through Buckingham Palace and beyond. Reports leaked of the incident, sparking debate among royal observers and loyalists alike. Who had the right to mock a princess, whose life was devoted to duty and tradition? Could Camilla shield her daughter from the inevitable fallout? Anne's response was clear and immediate. The floral pin would be returned, all improprieties documented, and oversight reinforced. No one, neither Camilla nor Laura, could undermine the legacy of Diana or the authority of a princess of the realm. By the night's end, one thing was certain. Princess Anne had reminded everyone present that some lines, once crossed, would be met with swift, uncompromising justice. And the message was unmistakable: respect for legacy, dignity, and authority was not negotiable, no matter who you were or whose daughter you might be. The storm had begun. And for Laura Lopes and Camilla, The world had just witnessed the first act in a royal reckoning they could not ignore. The next morning, Buckingham Palace was already buzzing. Staff whispered in hushed tones about the events at Sandringham the night before. Social media, of course, was ablaze. Video clips of Laura's mocking gestures and Anne's silent but piercing glare had surfaced, and public outrage surged like a tide. Hashtags such as #Respect Princess Anne and #Protect Diana's Legacy trended within hours. Camilla paced the private quarters, her composure fractured. Her daughter had underestimated the repercussions, and now she felt the weight of accountability pressing down. "Anne humiliated us," Camilla muttered under her breath, clutching a silk scarf. Her eyes darted to the phone, hoping no further footage had leaked. But the digital world had already taken the story and amplified it exponentially. Every gesture, every smirk, every word of Laura's had become public property. Laura, meanwhile, retreated to her London apartment, heart pounding. She could still feel Anne's gaze, the cold precision with which the princess had dismantled her arrogance piece by piece. Messages from friends and associates poured in. "Did you see the clip?" Anne didn't even raise her voice, but you could feel it. Laura's earlier confidence was gone, replaced by panic. The reputation she had cultivated in elite art circles now teetered on the brink of collapse. Prince William, having been briefed overnight, was a storm contained behind calm eyes. Sitting at his desk in Kensington Palace, he reread the report Anne had sent him, a detailed account of the incident, including photographic evidence of Laura wearing the sapphire floral pin that had once belonged to Diana. His fingers clenched around his pen as he composed a message to his aunt. The words were sharp, measured, and left no room for misinterpretation. "This is not acceptable. The legacy of my mother cannot be used for vanity or amusement. I expect immediate rectification and accountability." When the message reached Laura, she felt a cold tremor of fear. William's authority, combined with Anne's unwavering stance, left her trapped. Her mother tried to console her, but even Camilla's interventions felt insufficient. Anne's meticulous planning and unshakable discipline meant that any attempt to circumvent the consequences would be met with further exposure. At Sandringham, Anne convened a private session with senior palace aides and members of the Royal Jewelry Advisory Board. The floral pin, a symbol of Diana's enduring legacy, was catalogued and locked away. Anne's voice, calm but resolute, cut through the murmurs. "No individual, regardless of lineage or favor, may exploit this family's history. Legacy is not a toy for amusement." Heads nodded in silent agreement. The decision was unanimous, no appeal would override it. Across London, Camilla held a tense phone call with advisors, attempting to navigate the fallout. Every suggestion was tempered by the realization that Anne had anticipated the repercussions before they even happened. The Queen Consort's influence could not shield her daughter from the consequences. "We must contain the damage," she said, voice tight. "But Anne has the upper hand. There is no disputing her authority." In the art world, Laura's peers began whispering. Invitations were quietly rescinded, collaborations paused, and patrons expressed subtle disapproval. The narrative was clear. Those who flaunted Diana's legacy without respect would find doors closed. The lesson, stark and immediate, reverberated beyond the palace walls. Tradition and respect remained untouchable. The public response was equally decisive. Editorials praised Princess Anne's measured handling of the crisis, emphasizing her courage and the clarity of her moral compass. Commentators highlighted her ability to assert authority without spectacle, to teach a lesson in respect and heritage through restraint and precision. Social media erupted in admiration. "Anne is the embodiment of royal dignity," wrote one user. "No one can touch her legacy." Even Camilla could not escape scrutiny. Though she remained officially untarnished, whispers of her complicity in Laura's audacious behavior spread. Questions arose. Had she encouraged her daughter's irreverence? Was she trying to assert influence by proxy? The answers were complex, but one thing was undeniable. Anne's intervention had reasserted the primacy of respect, duty, and protection of legacy over familial favoritism. By mid-morning, the palace was already recalibrating. Security briefings, staff instructions, and private correspondence ensured that the scandal would be contained. While still reinforcing the hierarchy, Anne had decisively strengthened. Every gesture, from the brooch's return to Anne's private communications, sent a clear signal. She was the guardian of the monarchy's dignity, and no personal or familial ambition could override that. Camilla and Laura, meanwhile, were left to reckon with the fallout in silence. Afternoon tea offered no solace. Their private conversations were now colored by fear and recognition. Anne was unyielding. Any attempt to mitigate the damage without acknowledging wrongdoing was futile. Anne's authority was absolute, her command unquestioned. As evening fell over London, the public's fascination only grew. Discussions of Diana's legacy, the symbolism of the sapphire floral pin, and the principled stance of Princess Anne dominated both traditional media and online platforms. Analysts emphasized that the incident reinforced the importance of respecting royal heritage. Anne had turned a moment of disrespect into a powerful lesson on authority, dignity, and legacy. By nightfall, William had taken no public action, but remained fully engaged behind the scenes. His unwavering support for Anne was evident in every consultation, every message, and every directive sent to palace staff. Together, they ensured that the lessons of the evening would resonate for years. Disrespect to Diana's memory or to Princess Anne's authority would never be tolerated, and as London slept, the palace hierarchy was clear. Princess Anne, steadfast and resolute, had not only defended Diana's legacy, but had reinforced her own indomitable position. Camilla and Laura, for the first time, understood that royal authority and moral responsibility could not be undermined, no matter the audacity or status of the transgressor. The battle lines had been drawn. The consequences for mother and daughter were only beginning to unfold. And one truth remained unmistakable. In the kingdom of heritage, respect was paramount, and Princess Anne's vigilance would leave no breach unpunished. The evening sun cast long shadows across the grand halls of Sandringham Palace as the royal gathering continued, unaware of the storm brewing in its midst. Laura Lopes, emboldened by earlier whispers of influence, moved through the room with a self-assured smile. She leaned close to a cluster of young aristocrats and murmured, "Honestly, look at Anne. All that age, all those ceremonies, and she dresses like she's still at boarding school. A royal puppet, if you ask me. And don't forget, her power is always behind her brother's shadow. She has no authority over me." Her words, carried in a conspiratorial tone, spread faster than she anticipated. Anne, standing nearby in a modest navy dress, overheard every syllable. Her piercing steel blue eyes narrowed, calm but unmistakably sharp. The air around her seemed to thicken as she stepped forward, her presence commanding immediate attention. Guests instinctively hushed, sensing the gravity in her movement. Laura laughed lightly, oblivious to the tension, continuing her tirade. "Honestly, Camilla has always played the role of the real power behind the throne, hasn't she? Anne's just a figurehead, a relic, and yet here she comes, scolding us like she owns the place." Her voice carried the same careless arrogance that had sparked the earlier incident. Anne's lips curved into a faint, controlled smile. She raised a hand, stopping Laura mid-sentence. "You wear a jewel, Miss Lopes," she began, her voice calm but slicing through the murmur like a blade. "Without understanding its history, its weight, its meaning, do you know whose legacy that floral brooch represents?" Laura blinked, confusion flashing across her face. Camilla, standing nearby, caught the change in atmosphere, her smile faltering as the realization dawned. Anne's gaze did not waver. "That pin belonged to Princess Diana," she continued, her tone measured but lethal. "A woman whose memory you and your mother are exploiting. You wear it as an accessory, while she wore it as a symbol of service, compassion, and duty. And yet you mock me, calling me a puppet?" A hushed gasp moved through the room. Guests turned toward the confrontation, sensing the historical gravity and moral weight of Anne's words. Laura's cheeks flushed. I didn't mean," she began, but Anne's raised hand silenced her instantly. Anne stepped closer, her presence dwarfing the young woman. "Intent does not excuse ignorance or arrogance. You speak of my age as if experience were a weakness. You mock my dress as if modesty were folly. But these are not flaws. They are the marks of someone who carries centuries of responsibility and preserves the dignity of the monarchy." Camilla's eyes widened, caught between maternal instinct and the realization that her daughter had misjudged her audience. She opened her mouth to intervene, but Anne's gaze swept past her, icy and unrelenting. "And you, Camilla, you may influence, guide, even support," Anne said, her tone firm, "but you do not dictate respect for legacy. No mother, no daughter, no crown holder may distort what was entrusted to this family for personal vanity." Anne's hand gestured subtly toward the sapphire floral brooch. The room followed her movement, recognizing the iconic jewel's significance. The symbol of Diana's compassion and elegance, once a treasured heirloom, now shimmered with renewed solemnity. Laura's face paled, her earlier smirk replaced by shock. The weight of centuries of tradition and expectation pressed down upon her. Anne's voice grew firmer. "Let this be a lesson in humility. The legacy of those who came before you is not yours to wield lightly. It is to be respected, preserved, and honored. And you, Miss Lopes, have learned tonight that irreverence comes with consequences. Public mockery of dignity, even in jest, is not tolerated. Guests held their breath as Laura stammered, attempting a defense, but Anne did not relent. Your privilege does not grant you immunity. Your mother may have provided guidance, but it does not absolve you of responsibility. Authority does not override moral duty. Ife? Camilla, pale and visibly shaken, finally found her voice. Anne, please. Anne's gaze locked on her, unwavering. I protect this legacy. I protect the values, the symbols, and the integrity that cannot be compromised. You may wish to step back, adjust your actions, and reflect on what respect truly means. A tense silence fell. Laura's confidence crumbled entirely. She shrank back, realizing the enormity of her misjudgment. Camilla, equally unsettled, recognized that Anne had not only asserted her authority but had done so with a clarity and precision that left no room for dispute. William, observing from across the hall, allowed the moment to unfold. His presence, silent but commanding, reinforced Anne's authority. Guests whispered among themselves, awed by the demonstration of principled power, by a princess whose courage and clarity reminded them that royalty was not about vanity, influence, or fashion. It was about responsibility, legacy, and unassailable dignity. The confrontation ended with Anne returning to her circle, posture impeccable, her calm composure, reaffirming her status as the indomitable guardian of Diana's memory. Laura and Camilla remained frozen, absorbing the magnitude of the lesson, the public and personal humiliation exacted, and the irreversible reaffirmation of Anne's unchallenged position within the family hierarchy. Across the hall, a soft murmur of admiration ran through the attendees. The message was clear. Tradition, respect, and legacy were beyond reproach, and Princess Anne, unflinching and decisive, had made certain that all present understood it. The palace's quiet corners would long remember the evening, not for a slip of words or a mocking joke, but for the authority, wisdom, and unyielding moral compass of Princess Anne, whose intervention had reshaped the dynamics of Camilla's household and reaffirmed the sacredness of Diana's enduring legacy. The aftermath of the Sandringham confrontation rippled far beyond the palace walls. Within hours, whispers of Anne's decisive intervention spread through the royal household. Courtiers and aides shared hurried messages, discreetly acknowledging the firmness with which Anne had confronted Laura Lopes and, by extension, Camilla. News outlets caught wind of the incident. Headlines across tabloids screamed, "Princess Anne holds court, Diana's legacy protected, and Camilla's daughter publicly rebuked at royal event." Social media exploded, with millions of viewers praising Anne's unwavering defense of the monarchy's integrity. Hashtags like #StandWithAnne and #ProtectDiana's Legacy began trending globally, as royal enthusiasts celebrated her courage. Meanwhile, Laura Lopes withdrew into a private chamber, her earlier confidence replaced by dread. Every interaction she had at the event was now under scrutiny. Staff members noted her pallor, the subtle shaking of her hands, and the careful avoidance of eye contact. Camilla's attempts to soothe her daughter were met with polite silence. The queen consort recognized that Anne's authority had left an indelible mark, one that neither of them could quickly undo. Back at the palace, Anne convened an emergency review of all family protocols regarding heirlooms and legacy items. Her goal was clear. No symbol of Diana's memory could ever again be misused or trivialized. The sapphire floral brooch that had triggered the confrontation was returned to a secure display, under Anne's oversight, with strict instructions for handling and ceremonial use. This move, though administrative, carried enormous symbolic weight, reasserting Anne's position as the guardian of both legacy and protocol. William's quiet presence throughout the aftermath underscored the gravity of the situation. Though he did not speak publicly, his support was unmistakable. By backing Anne, he signaled to the family and the public alike that respect for Diana's memory and royal tradition was paramount. Courtiers noted that even Camilla seemed hesitant to oppose the actions taken, aware that the future king's eyes were upon the matter. At the same time, royal watchers speculated about broader implications. Analysts noted that Anne's decisive handling of the incident had effectively curtailed any attempt by Camilla or her daughter to leverage influence for personal advantage. It reinforced the hierarchy within the family. Legacy and duty came before personal ambition. Social media commentary reflected this sentiment, with users debating Anne's methods, but largely agreeing on the righteousness of her cause. Laura Lopes' public image took a severe hit. Invitations to upcoming cultural events and art exhibitions were quietly rescinded, and her social standing among aristocratic circles waned. Camilla, though quietly maintaining her position, began to scale back public engagements, appearing more measured and reserved in order to avoid further scrutiny. Anne's intervention had shifted the balance, reaffirming the values of respect, discipline, and accountability within the royal family. The palace, meanwhile, moved swiftly to manage external perceptions. Press releases emphasized Anne's dedication to preserving royal heritage, while carefully omitting direct mention of Laura or Camilla. The strategy was clear: uphold the monarchy's dignity without fueling further scandal. Inside the family, however, the message was unmistakable. Anne had drawn a line in the sand. Any attempt to exploit legacy or disrespect tradition would meet with unyielding authority. By the following week, Catherine and William's public appearances subtly echoed the same principles. Their careful adherence to protocol, poise, and unwavering dedication to charitable duties mirrored Anne's demonstration, signaling a united front to the public. The episode had not only protected Diana's legacy, but had reinforced the moral backbone of the monarchy, demonstrating that respect for history and for its symbols remained non-negotiable. The events at Sandringham became a quiet turning point. For Anne, it was another reaffirmation of her lifelong commitment to the crown. For Laura and Camilla, it was a humbling reminder that privilege does not supersede duty. And for the monarchy, it reinforced a timeless lesson. Legacy, dignity, and respect are sacred, and no personal ambition can override them. In the days following the Sandringham incident, the palace buzzed with subtle, yet unmistakable tension. Anne's intervention had not only humiliated Laura Lopes, but also exposed cracks in Camilla's carefully maintained composure. The corridors of Buckingham Palace were filled with whispers, aides quietly exchanging reports, and advisors recalibrating their approach to the Queen Consort's family. Anne's decisive action had set a precedent. No member of the extended family could flaunt entitlement without consequence. Camilla, still reeling from the public exposure of her daughter's insolence, retreated into a flurry of private meetings. She attempted to reassure Laura, promising that reputations could be salvaged, yet she knew that the damage was deep. Every casual laugh and jest at Sandringham had been captured in the minds of those present, and worse, had begun circulating quietly among the press. The brooch, a relic of Diana's memory, had become a symbol of both privilege and recklessness, and Anne had wielded it like a scalpel, cutting through any illusion of invincibility that Laura once held. Laura herself oscillated between fear and defiance. Her once bold demeanor faded as she realized the full weight of Anne's authority. Friends who had once admired her audacity now whispered about her hubris. Even at private gatherings, conversations turned cautious, the air thick with unspoken judgment. Anne's message was clear: respect for the monarchy and its legacy was non-negotiable, and no social status or maternal influence could shield one from accountability. Behind closed doors, Anne began implementing a system to safeguard royal heirlooms and symbols of Diana's legacy. Documents were cross-checked, protocols updated, and oversight tightened. Courtiers noted that Anne's precision and foresight were unmatched. Every decision carried both symbolic and practical weight. It was not merely about punishing Laura, it was about protecting the institution from future indiscretions. This meticulous approach left Camilla unnerved, aware that her daughter's missteps had inadvertently triggered a thorough review of royal customs. Public perception, meanwhile, swung heavily in Anne's favor. News outlets praised her unwavering dedication, framing the event as a triumph of principle over privilege. Headlines such as "Princess Anne defends royal legacy with iron resolve" and "No one disrespects Diana's memory on Anne's watch" dominated front pages. Social media buzzed with admiration, with royal enthusiasts applauding Anne's measured yet formidable response. The phrase number "Guardian of Diana" trended, reflecting the public's recognition of her role as protector of both memory and monarchy. Camilla's attempts at damage control were careful, but ultimately ineffective. Though she maintained her composure in public, behind the palace gates she faced mounting scrutiny. Every event, every charitable appearance, was now measured against Anne's benchmark of propriety. The contrast between Anne's steadfast authority and Camilla's quieter, more conciliatory demeanor became starkly evident. Meanwhile, Laura withdrew from public life entirely, her artistic engagements postponed or canceled, and her social reputation quietly eroded. Anne's influence extended beyond the immediate scandal. By reinforcing the sacredness of royal heritage, she subtly reminded all family members of the boundaries within which they operated. William's silent support underscored the legitimacy of her actions. His subtle nods at official events conveyed a message that authority, respect, and duty were unified within the family hierarchy. Catherine, observing from her side, mirrored this approach in her public engagements, reinforcing the monarchy's collective image of dignity and composure. Within the palace, the mood was tense, yet disciplined. Courtiers knew that the ripple effects of Anne's confrontation would be long-lasting. Camilla and Laura had been humbled, their influence curtailed, and the family's internal dynamics had shifted. Anne's unwavering defense of tradition and legacy had not only reaffirmed her authority, but also signaled that the monarchy could enforce respect without descending into public spectacle. By the end of the week, the incident had transformed from a private altercation into a case study in royal discipline. Every member of the family, from the eldest to the youngest, had witnessed the consequences of disregard for hierarchy and legacy. The sapphire brooch, once a symbol of casual display, now embodied the weight of history and the sanctity of Diana's memory. Anne's presence, steady and uncompromising, reminded all that in the royal family, respect was earned and legacy was protected, no exceptions allowed. The palace had weathered many storms, but this one left a lasting impression. It wasn't just about correcting a single misstep. It was about establishing the inviolability of tradition, the authority of those who safeguard it, and the consequences of failing to honor the past. In Anne's eyes, the lesson was simple yet profound. Dignity, legacy, and respect were the pillars upon which the monarchy stood, and she would defend them, unwavering and absolute. The aftermath of the Sandringham confrontation settled into a tense stillness within the palace walls. Camilla, once confident in her influence, found herself navigating a landscape reshaped by Anne's decisive authority. Laura Lopes remained largely secluded, her social calendar cleared, her previous confidence replaced by caution and unease. Every step she took now reminded her of Anne's unwavering presence and the lesson that royal legacy was not to be toyed with. Anne, standing tall as ever, had reasserted the power of principle over privilege. In private chambers and during official functions, courtiers noted her subtle yet unmistakable influence. Her message was clear. The monarchy's traditions and symbols, especially those tied to Princess Diana, were sacred and untouchable. Respect was not optional, and any attempts to undermine it would be met with decisive action. The iconic sapphire brooch, once casually worn by Laura, was secured under Anne's oversight, symbolizing the permanence of her victory. Its placement in the royal collection sent a clear message. Diana's legacy was preserved, untarnished, and fiercely protected. William's quiet approval reinforced the authority Anne wielded, signaling that any challenge to the monarchy's integrity would be met with familial unity and strategic resolve. Catherine and William continued their public duties, supporting the monarchy's image with grace, but Anne's actions had redefined the boundaries. The balance of power subtly shifted, respect for tradition was reaffirmed, and the young royals were reminded that history and protocol could not be ignored. Camilla's diminished visibility and Laura's retreat marked the end of the immediate crisis, yet the lessons lingered for everyone within the royal fold. Public reaction celebrated Anne's steadfastness. Headlines hailed her as the guardian of Diana's legacy and the unyielding pillar of the monarchy. Social media amplified the message, with hashtags like #RespectRoyalLegacy and #AnneStandsTall trending across platforms. Admirers praised her for defending both history and dignity, reinforcing the perception that the monarchy's survival depended not just on appearances, but on the moral authority of its senior members. As autumn's light spilled over the palace gardens, Anne could finally reflect with measured satisfaction. The confrontation had restored order and underscored her role as a protector of tradition. Camilla and Laura had been humbled, the lesson clear. Legacy, respect, and authority within the royal family were inviolable. Anne had not only defended Diana's memory, but had also reminded the world that the monarchy's strength lay in its values, discipline, and unwavering guardians. In the silent grandeur of the palace, Anne's presence radiated assurance. She had turned a potential scandal into a testament to the enduring power of principle. The monarchy, guided by her steadiness, remained unshaken, its legacy preserved, its hierarchy clarified, and its future secured through the resolute defense of its most sacred tenets.